but that's not released yet. So what we do have in production in the market today is our audio mining and speech analytics product, where we are diving inside those phone calls, pulling out meaningful business insights. I'll talk more about that in a minute. We are a Gartner Cool vendor in smart machines. I wish they'd called it artificial intelligence last year, but they're going to call it now next year, whatever, smart machines. So, and an IP partner of Intellectual Ventures. So this is our key technical differentiator. It's our platform that we call CoreTrack. And somewhat similar to the points that Danny Lang made a little earlier today about how generic training is not enough and you need to do specific types of training. CoreTrack really is built on the insight that, even if I call it like an extension, a second level of nesting of your 80-20 rule is if you actually just take it to the second level, you'll find what I call the 64-4 rule, where even if you have a speech recognition system that's 96% accurate out of the box, in all likelihood in that 4% failure zone, if you don't have the specific product names, features, acronyms, and everything that's unique and special to your company as a customer, most likely 64% of the true business value or the meaningful value of the business intelligence is most likely not going to be captured. So that's why we believe in customization, and that's what CoreTrack was built to do this very quickly and very cost effectively. We take stuff that was done previously for multi-million-dollar sums, and we do this for less than $1,000 a month. And so let me show you a little bit about how that works. So the stuff that's it used to look yellow on my PC, but now it looks like... Anyway, the stuff at the bottom, on the bottom left, you can see that we can either train the speech engine directly, or on the bottom right, we can either train the NLP engine first and then use a YakTrack patent-pending process where the NLP engine almost robotically goes and then trains the speech engine as well. So we use multiple approaches to training. And then, of course, at runtime, the operational data flows from left to right. This is a pretty conventional flow. You have the audio going to the speech engine, which generates a transcript, which then in turn sends it to the NLP engine that then categorizes it. The largest category sets we built are 20,000 categories, 300,000 word vocabularies, lexicons with more than 10 million sentences, and that's what the output metadata looks like then. This is, let's shifting a little bit here to the market. So like I mentioned, previously this is the kind of thing that was sold for multi-million-dollar sums. And only the Fortune 500 CIO could actually afford to buy stuff like that. On the other hand, there are at least 70,000 businesses in the US alone, SMBs, which use some entry-level call center of 5, 10, 20 seats and above that could never afford stuff like this. And so that's a huge part. You also have enterprise business unit managers. Think about things like HR departments that, again, in the past, if you want to listen to the voice of the employee, you literally could not afford to buy a $3 million solution to do stuff like that. So there's a huge market that's waiting out there. And one of the primary drivers, there's a bunch of things you can do in finance. There's compliance. In healthcare, there's improved patient outcomes. But the meat and potatoes of this business is CRM, listening to the voice of the customer, evaluating your agents robotically. This cuts across all kinds of industry sectors, and this is about a $600 million market that's accelerating pretty quickly. We expect it within the next 2 or 3 years to hit a multi-billion-dollar type level. So our audio mining product is something that we call OmniTrack. Think of OmniTrack as a search, reporting, and visualization layer that sits on top of the CoreTrack platform. This is in production. Customers are finding that it pays for itself in less than 2 months flat. They're seeing 400% productivity gains for their call center managers and the quality analysts who are now hyper-targeting what phone calls to listen to rather than randomly listening to them and finishing off that work within a matter of hours and taking a whole week instead to do that sort of stuff. There are some entry barriers that we create. The custom components then become YakTrack's IP that we exclusively license out to the customer, so there's some kind of technical lock-in. And we also, for customers that don't quite know what they want, they see the business value, YakTrack has the software, but then they say, okay, but what keywords and phrases do we track? We've got a bunch of starter kits that we've invested into where we cut across industry sectors, cut across use cases that they can use ready-made out of the box. And finally, we go to market either directly, and the value of that is that we get a lot of product build-out and validation, but the approach to scaling is through partnerships. And we charge an upfront implementation fee as well as a license fee, and we can do an entry-level implementation in as little as 2 weeks for an upfront fee as little as $3,600, and for ongoing license fees for less than $1,000, less than even $900. And that actually brings me in a little bit early, and with some time for questions and stuff.
All right. Let's give Yaktrack a round of applause. All right, judges. We've got an extra few minutes for questions, but does anybody want to start?
So, super busy space, right? A lot of people are going after that, Chorus.ai and a bunch of others, and it's all postmodern. So, postmodern, after the call is done,
yes,
you're having the sales manager review the calls. I mean, it's a highly inefficient process. I understand how you help these guys.
Yep.
But are you really changing? When you said you have gain of productivity, I mean, how are you measuring that? What's the kind of KPI that your guys are using? Because
well, sure. Well, our current customer is a company called Canadream. They are based out of Calgary, Alberta. They are a $30 million RV rental services company. They have a 15-seat call center. The call center manager actually doubles as a quality analyst. And she literally, this is straight out of her mouth, she says, what took me an entire week to do by trying to randomly listen, to all kinds of stuff. I mean, now, thanks to reporting and visualizations, she doesn't need to listen to all the average stuff. She just needs to listen to the really good stuff and the really bad stuff, right? So this is essentially a form of hyper-targeted quality control that they never had access to before. And they couldn't afford it. They couldn't buy, I mean, I don't want to mention competitors, but I mean.
The only
Yep.
The only ROI you're talking about is cost saving of time spent.
Well, that's the simplest metric we could come up with. Most likely the impacts that it'll have in terms of the quality of the outcomes for them. That stuff we haven't even gone into yet, but I think those numbers will be far higher when we get to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
How many paying customers do you have? And just how long have you been doing this?
Sure. Well, we've got right now, in terms of the audio mining and phone call analytics, we've got one customer that's in production, and we're rapidly wanting to scale that out across the next 10 or whatever. We've historically been in video indexing as well. That's something we still offer. We are in discussion with the top 5 software company who wants all of their educational videos indexed and made searchable. But and in the past, we've had a customer that actually got acquired by some very large media company and was funded by some equally large media company and so on. But today the emphasis, and we had about 20 odd customers in that space. We're not emphasizing video search as much as we're emphasizing audio mining for call centers today.
Hi, Jay. Thanks for the presentation and indulging our questions. I was just curious, to get the system up and running, is there a training period, and how much work is involved from the team just to get on a training data set so that it can then identify things?
Let me give you 2 specific examples. In the case of Canadream, what we found best was that we took about 50 hours. They had a very specific ask. They wanted these couple of dozen key phrases spotted. And so we just took about 50 hours of the call recordings. We took those specific target phrases very rapidly. If we had to do it a second time, of course that was the first case, so it took a bit longer. But if you had to do it a second time, I could do that in about 2 weeks flat. Now at very minimal cost. Now on the other hand, the kind of video indexing case that we described before, the one that got acquired by the large media company. Now in that case, it was a much different ask, and that's what the second half, that the graphics gone. But when we trained the NLU engine first, we had about 20,000 topics in a 4-layer deep taxonomy that then mapped across to something like 500,000 web pages of text that then went into the training corpus. But because we automated the process, the entire thing, most of the time that it took was literally the web crawl. It took about 3, 4, 5 days to finish the web crawl, and then after that, the machine just pretty much robotically configured itself.
Any other questions? Oh, one more question?
So you're targeting about 100,000 SMBs. That's a notoriously hard market to go to market to. What's your business development and partnership strategy to get to them? And why wouldn't you give this to the behemoth call centers instead of going to the individual folks who are contracted with these call centers, right?
Yeah, so we are, for scaling, partnerships is definitely our biggest strategy. We offer rev share, we offer white label. We're partnering with call recording companies, with call switching companies, and then offering. It's essentially turning into an infrastructure market. So that partnerships is essential. So that's our approach to scaling. Does that answer? I don't know if I answered the question there.
Yeah, I'm just saying, how are you going direct versus partner? Where will you spend more of your time?
Right. The real value of going direct there, is primarily about product build out and validation. Right now we have this one customer in the travel vertical that's doing agent evaluation, but in order to build those starter kits, what's really helpful for us to make a good reuse of the data, we really want this direct engagement so that we can acquire as much customer data as we can, anonymize it, and then that becomes our IP. So the real value of going direct is more about the product than about the penetration. Hopefully that yeah.
All right. Everybody, let's give Yaktrack and Jay a round of applause. All right, next up is Jack Berg with AI Nuco. So thank you very much, and it's your floor.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, quick reminder, if you haven't installed the app, install the app. There's going to be a vote at the end of the presentation. So, all right, we got the slides up, ready to go.
Great. So, our company is AI Nuco. We're doing diagnostic, therapeutical, and pharmaceutical answers for clinicians 100 times faster than what they're doing today with the current technology. We are standing on the shoulders of giants. Left-hand side here is Edward Jenner, the father of immunology, and someone who, at this point, in the late 1790s, took 23 people, gave them the cowpox virus, then gave them the smallpox virus, the first real clinical scientific study ever done in medicine, proceeded to write up a paper, sent it to the Royal Society of London, and it was promptly rejected. Today, smallpox is pretty much eradicated. On the right-hand side is John von Neumann. Between my freshman and sophomore year at MIT, I actually read von Neumann's The Computer and the Brain, as well as some of Marvin Minsky's work and Alan Turing's work. I walk into my undergraduate advisor's office and ask and say, "Hey, how's it going?" He says, "Hey, what do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "Man, there's something really neat that I read about over the summer. Artificial intelligence." And he goes, "Why do you want to do that? There are no jobs and no money in it." Today, several decades later, different story. And I'm very thankful that I'm among 300 people in this room today working in this area. Why is AI Nuco doing this? Eric Horowitz of Microsoft talked about this earlier today. There are over 250,000 people who die a year at this point due to medical errors and omissions. Oftentimes at this point, that is the third leading cause of fatalities in the U.S. In other words, 1/3 of the people in San Francisco die annually throughout the United States at this point. This is a big deal. This is the problem that we want to solve. Good example here, current technology is up to date, done by Walter Coyers, a Dutch firm. Currently, you type in your question, such as, what is ringing in the ear, what is those symptoms? It comes back with a list of, this is not a complete list, but over 100 answers at this point. Each of those answers is actually a link to a PDF that's approximately 15 pages long. You then have to click on the appropriate PDF to potentially get the correct answer. But oh, by the way, that PDF is typically 15 pages long. Likewise, that PDF includes, at this time, the references. But if you want to take a look at the references, you can't. This is the typical situation where the chief nurse of the Veterans Administration took a look at this, and this is her standard way of attempting to take a look at answering clinical questions at this point. We provided her with our platform. Simply on a tablet, she punched in a question, she got an answer, typically 1 to 5 paragraphs. She touched the tab, and in fact, she could get the original data and references. She clicked on the PDF link, and she actually got the reference at that point. So what took her 4 hours on the left-hand side to do, she did in 4 minutes on the right-hand side. Why AI Nuco? Don't ask me, ask the chief nurse of the Veterans Administration. Objective evidence, second opinion at this point, unbiased. Deeper and more personalized diagnoses, and deeper and more patient-specific drug interactions. Likewise, when we take a look at this is a $1.2 billion market today, growing to about $1.5 billion in 2021. Presently, Up to Date has about 500 to 550 million of those of that business, and they employ 3,000 doctors to manually write the manuscripts that I showed you on the previous slide. We are going to do that automatically. Our next steps, 5 Ps. First, our prototype. My CTO and co-founder, Jim Harlow, is here. Happy to present to you what this does as a prototype for oncology and cancer at this point. Next, we're looking for partners, specifically CMOs and CIOs of healthcare systems. If you're one of those people, we would love to talk to you. If you play golf with one of those people, we'd love to talk with you. If you don't play golf but know them, we'd love to talk to you. Next, patents. 4 provisionals filed, 4 further that are in filing at this point. People, coders, talent, big deal. We have 5 full-time people working with us today, plus 4 part-time. And finally, purveyors of capital. We're looking for seed funding of approximately $750,000 to take us to the next level. For those of you who are interested in changing the world, we'd like to talk to you. Thank you.
All right, judges, who's up first?
Maybe I'll ask. One of the challenges with medicine, of course, is if you present a limited set of answers, of course, you're going to guide them along. But in many cases, ringing in the ear could be hundreds of different things. How do you handle that problem where low probability conditions could still exist?
So we actually take the entire list of approximately 50 to 60 million of peer-reviewed papers at this point and score them based on content and sensitivity as well as context. And therefore that list can continue on and you can actually take a look at lower probability assessments at this point.
So basically you're just scoring all the information just in a probabilistic list.
That's correct.
I'd like to go back to, so first, great pitch, good salesperson. I think you hit all the things you should be hitting. Who's your client? I mean, is that nurse or chief scientist? I mean, tell me a bit more about who is your client, who's using your solution, the purchasing cycle in that, because, the ROI on time, again, good. Love that you put the human at the center of the solution, right? So again, some positive, but who is your clients really, the sales cycle, and using machine to do that work makes a ton of sense as well. So I think that's clear value prop.
Excellent questions. So currently there are over 1,600 hospital and medical systems in North America, Britain, UK, that typically use Up to Date, and other products similar to that. You will go, if you go to Stanford Hospital, El Camino Hospital System, Sutter Healthcare Systems, they're all using Up to Date at this point. So in fact, there are the target of systems at this point and customers are those large systems at this point.
So, but how do you sell to them? They already use that; they're paying for it, right? So, how do you displace them?
So at this point, you take a look at. So, when you look at Stanford Medical Hospital, they are spending approximately $4.5 million a year on peer-reviewed publications and other systems. Half of that is Up to Date. they are extremely interested in finding alternative solutions to UpToDate. Okay?
Thank you.
Could you say a bit more about the technology? It feels like it's a database with a better UI and a recommendation engine built in. It's not clear to me, at least from the presentation, what the AI component is here.
So it is an AI recommender situation with deep learning and natural language processing. I'd be happy to have a subsequent conversation to go into the details of the technology offline.
And what's your revenue model?
Pardon me?
What's your revenue model? What's the pricing to Stanford Medical for this?
Our pricing at this point is to provide a price that is discounted at this point to UpToDate, but not substantially discounted.
And how much did it charge?
I just told you what Stanford what the charges at Stanford were, right?
But that's the cost of time of people working on it. That's not the cost of the software for UpToDate. I mean, I don't know it. So if you know it, I'd love to hear it.
Pardon me. I'm sorry. What's the question?
His question is, how much did they pay for the software, not the total cost of the system?
They are paying what does UpToDate? UpToDate's current model is about $500 million to $550 million in revenue per year. 60% of that is being spent on having medical doctors write the information that they currently have on the system.
Maybe I could rephrase the question a little differently. Well, all right, I'll just leave it. I have a quick follow-on. What's stopping UpToDate just improving their algorithm?
So, great question. Manual, at this point, they have a manual system, and they feel it's quite comfortable at this point in working with that. So, it's certainly, I certainly cannot tell WK at this point what to do, but I can certainly do what they are doing faster with AI, deep learning, and NLP.
All right, judges, I think we have time for one last question if there is one.
I actually just wanted to know your pricing. Just annually, what's your license going to be?
It's discounted.
It's discounted on $2.5 million that UpToDate charges?
Approximately, so we're talking on the order of about $550 per user per year.
All right.
User per year.
All right. Thank you very much, Jack. Thank you, AI Nuco. All right. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't installed the app, this is a good opportunity to install the app because we are going to be asking for a vote. Next up, Kareem Galil from Mendel Health. All right, Kareem, the floor is almost yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kareem Galil. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Mendel. We help cancer patients find the right treatments. I'm also a physician, and last year I got a cancer patient, 30 years old, who passed away. And a few weeks later, I find on one of the journals about a clinical trial that would have saved this patient's life. I just didn't get to know about this trial on the right time. When I joined medical school, I joined to save patients' lives, and this story is not a story that happens every now and then. It's a story that happens every single day. As a matter of fact, it even happens in the world's best cancer centers. So MD Anderson did a research on their own pool of patients, and they find out that 40% of their patients do not get access to world-class treatments. That can be a clinical trial, that can be a new guideline, that can be a new publication. And I quote, due to the lack of awareness of the doctor. Now, doctors want to do the best for their patients. They're one of the best and smartest people you can talk with. But the problem is, on one side, they have very fast-growing research. We're talking about 700,000 papers published every single year in medicine. A human being can read around 200 out of the 700,000. On the other side, you have patients' medical records, which is a bunch of PDFs, all unstructured data. This is just 1/3 of a cancer patient medical record. Then, in between, you have a doctor who's sitting trying to read both sets of unstructured data and do matching and inferences between both sets, all in 10 or 20 minutes. It's just humanly impossible to do that. And it's also an obvious AI use case scenario. The problem is that most of the AI solutions at the moment depend on natural language processing, where we're able to understand the medical records. We're also able to understand a lot about the treatment. But when you're trying to pick one treatment that fits the context of the patient, not a word-to-word matching, but a context-to-context matching, it's super challenging because we have human beings who have to write the inferencing rules between both data sets. This is a very simple rule. If you find X and Y, recommend Z. But in medicine, rules are way more complicated, and you need millions and millions of these rules. A human being cannot sit down and do that. The result, AI in medicine is not working. When we first started the company, we usually used to get, how are you guys different than IBM Watson? Now, where we are different is the approach that Mendel decided to take, which is let's not depend on NLP is already there. Let's not depend on building rules. Let's try to train an AI to come up with its own rules. And that, so we decided to customize an RNN that can basically understand how human beings make those inferencing rules and start come up with its own rules. And this is a very hard task because you need tons of training data that a startup do not have access to, and it's really hard to get it from hospitals. So what we did is we hired a team of physicians overseas, and we asked them to sit down and create training data for us. So we created over 100,000 training decisions. We did over 3,000 hours of training to the network, and the result was very, 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 very promising results, where I personally was surprised with the kind of recommendations that I got from the software. Now, we use the same team to actually do to close the loop of data. So whenever the AI is generating a result at the moment, this same team of physicians actually supervise the result and make sure that the network is growing smarter and smarter. Now, let me introduce you to Mendel. Mendel is basically a frictionless website. You log into the website and you upload your medical records. If you do not have one, we actually request them for you. Usually it's PDFs. Once you upload these, the system kicks in and starts matching your records to every single clinical trial or treatment that has been published. Then we give a match score for every treatment, whether it's fair match, good or poor match, or a good match. Now, this is not to tell you that this is the right treatment. This is a tool for patients and for doctors to start a smarter conversations on how they should proceed with the treatment plan. That is why the content is different. If a patient logs in, we add videos. We actually use some AI algorithms to change the content to be patient-friendly. So patients and doctors get to have different content. Now, technology is a glittering lure, but building in healthcare, building a technology that actually breaks the gridlock where patients do not trust startups, doctors are not willing to change anything, is actually quite of a challenge. When we first started, we had this website. We were paying $80 for acquiring every single patient, and we couldn't afford doing that. But then we realized that if we can integrate our technology where patients and doctors already live, then we're going to have a completely different and frictionless experience. So we built an API that can integrate with EMRs. It can also integrate with labs. The epiphany here was like, as a physician, I used to have a lot of apps that could help me. I never used them because I don't want to change my glove, take a cell phone from my pocket, look at it, then put it back. But I'm always on the EMR. That's where I live. I'm always putting data on the EMR. So if the EMR can detect all the relevant information and start recommending treatments for me, I'm willing to use that. The result is we were able to close 2 clients that generates over 150,000 patients data points, and this is a network effect that can build the defensibility for our technology. Our business model is pretty straightforward. We charge $56 every time a doctor or a patient runs a search on our AI. But this is just to keep the lights on. What wakes me up personally is the data that we collect every time somebody's doing a research can be used to identify potential biomarkers and targets for pharma companies. Think of it like 23andMe. They do not make money out of selling the kit, but they use this data to allow pharma companies to discover new biomarkers and new treatments. And this is what wakes me, again, up in the morning. Market size almost every company that comes into this field are trying to tap the $2 billion recruitment, which is basically finding the right patient for the right clinical trial. But the market that we are tapping in is identifying biomarkers, which is over $24 billion market. This is my team, and we have successfully closed a seed round for $2 million, and we are at the moment looking for every single talent that is interested in the mission and the goal of Mendel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, judges, we have about 3 minutes for questions, or 3 to 4 minutes for questions.
All right, I'll ask a very short one. Who pays the $56?
So the hospital or the lab pays the $56, and the reason is once they identify a potential patient for a trial, the pharma company compensates them between $3,000 up to $20,000.
Okay, I think I got it, but
So success is a successful patient clinical match?
I'm sorry.
Success for you is successful patient to clinical trial?
Yeah, exactly. So every clinical trial has a set of rules, inclusion and exclusion criteria, right? So whenever you want to try to find a patient to this trials, you have to manually read and do the matching. What we do is we automate the process so they can automatically identify once the patient comes into the room, what is the right patient for what trial.
maybe I can ask the following question. So if I'm understanding it, the tool is primarily for people who have something that you need a clinical trial for. I mean, like, majority of cancer patients, don't they use non-clinical trial methodologies?
Actually not. So clinical trials in cancer is the number one line of treatment, not the second line of treatment. So once a cancer patient is admitted, the first line of treatment should be a clinical trial. And in cancer, clinical trials do not have placebo. So every trial is actually the real therapeutic agent. So it's a very different case in cancer.
Maybe one more question?
Can you have a sense for just the volume of trials? How many trials are there each year?
Excuse me?
Can you give a sense of the volume of trials?
Yes, there's over 100,000 clinical trials in cancer, only in cancer. In general, this is a way bigger number, but at the moment, we're only targeting cancer patients.
Oh, one last question, Ben.
How many analyses does an average lab in America is doing on a per day or per month basis? How many times per day do they do these trials?
Very interesting question. So a hospital needs to find patients for trials. A lab is a completely different dynamics. In the lab, like Foundation Medicine or CGI, they usually send a report for the doctor that states the mutation or the DNA mutation of the cancer, but they do not state what trials are matching to this mutation. This is a really big problem because doctors tend not to order these tests because they cannot match patients to trials. What we do is we add to their report a section which matches these mutations to the right trials. So it basically makes the report more informative for the patient. So at the moment, they don't even do that.
But how many tests a lab is performing every day on an average basis?
It ranges between 10,000 to 15,000 per month.
Per month. Thank you.
Per lab.
All right. Thank you, Khalil. Thank you, Khalil. Kareem. Sorry. Thank you, Kareem. And Mendel Health. All right. Our last presenter for the afternoon here is John Whaley from Unify ID. The floor is yours, John.
How do you identify people? Is it the way they look? Maybe you look at their face, their smile, their possessions, the places you see them. Once you know someone well enough, maybe you can recognize them by the way they move, or even their heartbeat. What is it that makes you you? You are not a 9-digit number. You are not a piece of plastic with your photo on it. And you're certainly not a password with a capital letter, a number, and a symbol. I'm John Whaley, founder and CEO of Unify ID. We're a group of security and machine learning experts from MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, and CMU, and we're out to fix authentication forever. We've developed a technique called implicit authentication that's going to revolutionize the way you authenticate people both online and in the physical world. Our approach differs from every other authentication technique in that it requires zero conscious user action. You just be yourself, and there's enough that's unique about you that we can actually authenticate you. This doesn't require any extra hardware. We actually just use the sensors that are already on the devices you have, like your phone, your computer, and wearables if you have them. Some of the sensors we use are the accelerometer and gyroscope, GPS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and many others. Some of the factors we use are how you walk, the way you move, the places you go, and signals from devices around you. So I'm going to pray to the demo gods and actually try to do a live demo. Let's see. So I've actually been holding my phone in my pocket this entire time. Sorry, I'm going to have to plug in my phone in the back so everybody can see what's going on. So I've been holding my phone this entire time, and now, so I'm in a strange room. I've never been in this room before. I've never, let's see if we go ahead and plug it in. I've never actually, there's a lot of strange signals around that's, but the one constant is I've actually been holding my phone in my pocket the entire time. So let's go ahead and can we see the phone? The iPhone. Okay. So you'll have to trust me what's on the screen. Let me go ahead and I'll unplug it. The remote display doesn't actually work. But so we have a mobile SDK that can link into existing iOS and Android apps. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'm going to just click on. I didn't use my fingerprint. I did not use my PIN. I didn't need to. In fact, my PIN is just 5555. That's the same PIN as over 6 million other Americans. So I'll click. In fact, I just one click I was able to get in. I did not need to do a fingerprint or anything else because the sensor data was actually strong enough. The signal was strong enough about the fact that the way that I walk, the way that I hold my phone is different than anyone else. So let me go ahead and hand this to someone. I'll hand it to my co-founder who's in the back, and he's gonna actually take the phone and he's gonna walk around a little bit, and then he's gonna try and do exactly the same thing. So now he has my phone, and I've even told him my passcode, which is 5555. And we'll see if we can get. So walk around a little bit. So there's fingers crossed. So this in particular is just using. So you got it 5555. Okay, perfect. Gonna try to log in. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but he was actually denied login. And so you'll see actually if he goes back to my computer and he tries to log into my computer, to the website on the computer, you'll see actually he's denied login there. He's going to be denied login there as well. He's going to try to go to the website, try to log in. You'll see he'll be denied login as well because the sensor data doesn't match when I yes, exactly. So we're able to do this cross-device, not only on one device, but also across device, and capture not only the sensor data, but also intention to log in. So now we just showed you some. That's just using this demo is using human motion, and so just with 6 seconds of walking data with your phone in your pocket, we can actually achieve a 98% true rejection rate. This completely blows away anything that's the state of the art. But that's just one factor. And so this, you guys are MIT crowd, so I had to just show you this, our confusion matrix on the right side. If anyone who's done anything in data science, and you look at this, this is the most beautiful confusion matrix ever. This is on a 264 class problem. This is basically classification problem taking 6 seconds of gate data from 264 different people. Can we identify who the person is? And so, this is probably the only graph in a pitch that where going up and to the right is not good. This one goes down and to the left. It's just right down the center. So we have a very sophisticated gait analysis, but that's just one factor. We look at a lot of other factors in human motion. We look at the signals from devices around you. We look at your location history, and combinations of those factors. Altogether, we use over 100 different attributes. And the key is the proliferation of sensors combined with innovations in machine learning. We have multiple patents filed in the areas of machine learning, security, and implicit authentication, and we're the first product to actually deploy and run neural networks locally on the phone to evaluate and to measure and process sensor data in real time. So our solution has clear applicability to the $170 billion cybersecurity market and the $600 billion e-commerce market. In the immediate term, right now we're working with some great brand names on the financial services side, banking side, and the technology company side on problems like account takeover and integrating our mobile SDK into their mobile app and on their website, as well as some other use cases. We see this extending for offline use cases as well in the physical world, for example, with IoT devices, which both have a need for security as well as are an additional source of sensor data. We're a group of security and machine learning experts from MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, and CMU. I did my image at MIT in '99. I graduated from Stanford with my PhD. We have a great group of advisors on the team as well. And my co-founder and I worked together at our previous enterprise security startup that got acquired 2 years ago, and we have experience selling to Fortune 500 and Global 2000 companies. We also run this great AI fellowship program. This is the second semester we're doing it, where we get some of the top talent in AI and machine learning and then have them work on very interesting research projects. We've already had papers published in NIPS, and we've, other top conferences, ICML, we have some other missions in process as well. So if anyone's interested in doing machine learning and, practical machine learning, targeting security or these types of problems, definitely check out this program because it's been a great boon for us. So humans have always been thought of as the weak link in security. At Unify ID, we're trying to flip that around and use what's unique about each individual to enhance security. We believe the best way to authenticate yourself is to be yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, judges, let's take 3 minutes for some questions.
Hey, John, it's great to see you again. Yeah. I think you should say a bit about the distribution strategy. I mean, in terms of how you're looking to build it in app by app, and then what you can do to accelerate that to get to critical mass in a short period of time.
Yeah, so today we have a mobile SDK that you can link into iOS and Android apps. So we also have a JavaScript implementation that you can distribute through that. We're currently in some conversations to get this distributed more at the platform level because clearly we're very focused on this problem of how to identify the human behind the device, and there's a lot of different needs for that type of solution. And so but in order for this to be successful, we really have to hit critical mass soon. So that's why we're really focused on this distribution problem and targeting large user communities and trying to get as much data and tied to user identities as possible.
After you get to a lot of users, how do you expect to make money?
So we charge on a pure authentication basis at the API level, and so that's ultimately what we're trying. The type of problems that we're solving is things like for account takeover, for fraud, detecting fraud, streamlining authentication for user experience. I mean, one example is there's a payment platform that currently the first time you use it, you have to type in a username and password, and by using this type of implicit authentication, you can streamline that. And the other benefit of this approach is that it's continuous, so it's happening all the time in the background. And so we handle de-authentication as well. Earlier today, I tried to download this MITCNC app, and it gave me a username and password, and I didn't actually know what I was supposed to type in there, and I couldn't actually figure it out. I tried to do reset password, I couldn't actually, and then eventually, I just deleted the app at the end. So, these are very real problems.
So, great pitch, great solution. I think everybody's been waiting for this a little bit, but the challenge is people have spent millions and billions of dollars in building inefficient two-factor authentication and so forth. How do you overcome the sunk cost into the infrastructure?
Yeah, so this is not a rip and replace. We're very complementary. So first of all, we support all the different protocols like OAuth and SAML and Radius and all the other pieces that our people have already done. And the use cases we're using it for today is not just eliminate all your passwords. It's more like for things like, well, let's help you with account takeover. Let's help you with fraud. Let's help automatic session extension, things like that. So these are places where an organization may be using currently, wanting to use two-factor authentication, but they feel like they're not using it because it's of the user experience issues, or it's too costly, or these type of things. So effectively, we get a free, from the user experience point of view, a free two-factor authentication without requiring any conscious user action.
So it's not a follow-up, but I think an idea for growth hacking is say, why don't you let people download your app, build their own profile, and basically go to the vendors and say, look, guys, we have that many millions of people that build their unique profiles, and we can activate them tomorrow.
We do that. We do have our own app. In fact, if you go to our website, you can sign up and download it. Right. But I mean, that's a slow growth distribution strategy. We're talking with partners that when we add them up globally, of qualified opportunities, it hits 1.2 billion people today. And so these are payment platforms and other device makers and other types of platforms.
And last question: how do you protect?
Let's wrap up. I think if you want to follow up. So, all right, John, thank you very much for Unify ID. All right, so we're running right at the edge of time. So here's what we're going to do. So the judges are going to take 3 minutes to deliberate. We're going to pick the judges winner of our AI Idol competition. And we're going to put up a poll for you to vote on who we think is the crowd choice for the winner. So you can see the poll up on the screen. And in 2 or 3 minutes here, we're going to select, or we're going to see the results of the crowd choice poll and then the judge's choice. Almost done. Oh, good. That's great. All right. We got some good votes. All right. At least, yeah. Unless there are multiple votes. How are we doing? Almost done? All right, we got 51 votes. That's good. Get those votes in. I think the judges are almost done as well. Sorry about getting your name wrong at the end, Kareem. I can confirm that there is an active debate going on among the judges. All right, guys, one more minute.
Yeah.
You good? I think I'm mic'd up. Yeah. I can announce it. Yeah, I'll announce it.
So you're going to need to mic out.
No, but you need to give context.
Yeah,
You need to give.
Perfect.
Should have been.
We don't say the top.
Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? All right. All right, folks. I think the judges are all ready. We've got 66 votes. So before we announce the results here, let me first off have all of the founders of the companies that presented stand up and get a big round of applause. I think everybody can appreciate that starting something new and building something that doesn't exist is always hard, and so clearly these guys are doing all the hard work here. We see a lot of opportunity for AI to make a difference. So why don't we start? What we'll do is we'll start by opening up the results of the crowd choice, and whoever the winner is, Unify ID, why don't you come up on stage? Congratulations, John and team. All right, so we got the Crowd Choice Award went to Unify ID. Mendel Health took second place, so congratulations to Mendel Health as well. And now I'll hand it off to Rob, who is going to describe the results of the judge deliberation.
First, I'd like to thank all the teams for participating. It's always tough, of course, to get up here. And our debate was, shall we say, active. There's a lot of good parts from many of them. So first, I want to congratulate all 4 teams for participating. We felt that Mendel did an excellent job, and we actually gave them the runner-up position. They really had a lot of great things. And of course, cancer research, for everybody involved who's ever dealt with cancer, it's a wonderful thing to solve. For our first place winner, we also chose Unity ID as well. There's simply a very large problem that needs to be solved there.
Well, congratulations to Mendel and Unify. All right, there it is. Well, thank you, everybody. That concludes the AI Idol competition here. A round of applause for the judges. And then one more round of applause for all the founders and the companies. Thank you, YakTrack. Thank you, AI Nuco. Thank you, Mendel. And thank you, Unify ID. All right. Thank you. Have a great rest of your conference.